Hello and welcome to this review of my Focus FK-1001. Seeing it sit like there on my wall, it looks like just another box, but this belies the fact that this is actually one of the absolute rarest keyboards in my collection. This is one of only 3 I know to exist, rarer even than the black 2001s. It's essentially a reduced size version of the FK-1001 with the keys squashed together, much like a 75% layout, but still with a full numpad attached. So it still has 101 buttons, but because they didn't actually chop it up all that extensively, it's not that much smaller than a 2001, 42 centimeters wide compared to 47 for the full size, a reduction of only 5 centimeters. Still, it's a very intriguing layout, to which I'll get back in a bit. I've known for years that the model existed. It's referenced in someone's FK-1001 quick reference card, of which the picture now appears to be lost. There's an FCC ID filed for it, and there's even a Deskthority wiki page about it, which listed just one of these for a long time until someone found a second one, in very good condition, from Goodwill, apparently not knowing that it was ultra rare. But considering how unassuming it looks, I'm not surprised they didn't really pick up on it. Took me years to get this one though. As you can see from the model sticker, it's got serial number 358, which is a very low serial, although the Goodwill one had 1164, which is also very low, but it shows that at least a 4-figure amount were made in total. Heaven knows where the rest are, if they still even exist. I only know these to come with Futaba MA switches, and indeed so does this one, specifically the MX mount version, which Focus used at times among just about every other switch under the sun. Now, because Focus is well known for using Alps switches in their keyboards, you might think that this is a later model, but this isn't the case. It's actually from early 1990. This is kind of weird because from roughly 1987 to 1989, Focus used blue Alps, and from 1990 to 1994, depending on the plant, they used white Alps, and from 1993 onwards they used Alps clones, roughly speaking of course. So the 1001 falls right between the blue and white Alps time frames. But then again, I also have an FK-6000 from 1993 and an FK-8000 from 1992, and they both have Futabas as well. So maybe they either kept switching or they had one rogue factory make Futaba models for them or something. I have no idea. Anyway, this keyboard is part of what I've nicknamed the first generation of Focus keyboards, which usually ended in 1001, such as the 2001, 3001, and 5001. Being from 1990, it's a pretty early specimen for a first gen, and it looks like they didn't make them for very long, much like the ISO 1002 models. The only model to survive for long was the 2001, which they kept making right into the 3rd generation. This one even has Windows keys. Being such an early model, it has a slightly thicker mounting plate than later models. Yes, mounting plate thickness decreased over the years, much like with Model M keyboards, and it weighs about 1.1 kilos. Unlike any of my 2001s, it also comes with screws at the back, although only 2 and only at the top. The rest of the keyboard is held together by plastic clips. And these are of course fucking shit, as exemplified by 3 out of the 4 bottom clips having broken off. So the build quality is still questionable, like with many Focus keyboards. Also at the back we have Focus's signature broad flip-out feet, some rubber pads that prevent slipping, and an AT-XT switch which is nearly broken off. The cable is coiled in grey by the way, and uses a 5-pin DIN plug, obviously as it's AT-XT. Many first-gen keyboards have the AT-XT switch under the badge here, which is removable by the way, but even though there's a hole cut out for it, there's nothing there in this one. Sometimes Focus put logo plates for different companies in here when they OEM'd for others, such as Magitronic or Escom, but this was mainly done on the 2001. Although Focus was not quite a household name like IBM was, they still appear to have been a big player on the keyboard market at the time. They just didn't brand their keyboards very ostentatiously. Or at least not visibly. This one has as many as 7 Focus brands on the inside, including on both case parts, the PCB and even the controller. And there's an 8th one at the back, but not a single one at the front. Maybe they were just really shy or something. So anyway, the switches are very strange. I reviewed them before, ages ago, and at the time I said I couldn't really make my mind up whether I like them or not, and Frankly, I still can't. The tactile bump famously is stronger on the upstroke than on the downstroke, which last week's snap action switches also had, and they have a rather tinny sound to them that's again louder on the upstroke. However, even in bad condition, like in this board, they're quite smooth, and it's not like they're explicitly bad or anything, so I guess they're okay? One big problem is the enter key though. I don't know what they did with the stabilizers on this thing, but it binds beyond belief. It's horrible. Look at this fucker. Jesus Henry Christ's anointed ballsack. What the fuck? Now onto the layout, which, as I mentioned before, is kinda unique. There's a lot of funky stuff going on here. The F-row is squashed slightly closer together, as are the mods, which are shortened to 1.25 unit ones, and they jammed the nav and arrow keys onto the side of the alpha block like a 75% keyboard. To save space, I guess, it's got a vertical lock light bank above the numpad, and with the lights in a rather strange order, I might add. As was pretty common for Focus at the time, it uses a split right shift, although admittedly that's quite common on 75% form factors in general, but perhaps most notably it doesn't use a full-size backspace in combination with the big-ass enter, which Focus is very well known for. They kept doing that right up until the bitter end. Now, I like a big-ass enter like this, but a single-unit backspace is not great. It's roughly as annoying as an ANSI layout in my opinion. Not the end of the world, but not ideal either. They kept a full 7-unit space key as well, and even the little recesses between the modifiers, although they're now only half a unit wide as opposed to 1 unit. It's a pretty bizarre layout overall when you think about it, and unfortunately I can't really comment on how well it works because so many of the switches aren't working, so I couldn't actually test it. Seems intriguing though, and definitely unique. I don't think I've ever seen another keyboard with a layout like this. The keycaps are nice. Their Focus is ABS double shots, including the ones for the weird keys, which they sometimes pad printed on other boards. They're thin but quite tall, so they amplify sound very well, plus they have colored modifiers, which is cool, and they're MX mount of course, although I think it'd actually be more useful if they were Alps mount in this case, because then you'd have some nice 1.25 unit OEM profile modifiers for use on a custom Alps project. But then again, taking such a rare keyboard apart for parts would be summa blasphemia. If you're wondering, by the way, the F9 key is a cap from a different board. Must have gotten lost and someone replaced it or something. Overall, it's a funky little board. Perhaps not the best one out there. Really, it's just a massive collector's piece more than anything else, but it's cool to see what crazy ideas they came up with back in the day. Nowadays, it might seem laughable to make a space-saving keyboard by hacking up the nav cluster rather than just lopping off the numpad, but back in the day, the numpad was a lot more sacred than it is now. And it should be. The numpad is great. And furthermore, don't forget, it's still got all the keys a full-size has. Anyway, that's it for this review. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And following is a typing demonstration of me typing on this keyboard.